You have never truly been alone, not once in your entire life. Someone was always within arm's reach, sleeping beside you, eating beside you, watching you grow. For roughly 300,000 years, this wasn't a violation of your space. This was simply what safety looked like. Today, you can lock a door. You can put in headphones and disappear into a crowd of strangers who will never learn your name. For nearly all of human history, that kind of solitude would have felt less like freedom and more like abandonment. So what did privacy actually mean to your ancestors? And did they even want it? Start with the shelter itself. Archaeological sites like Blombos Cave in South Africa and the rock shelters of the Dordogne in France reveal small single-room living spaces shared by extended family groups, sometimes a dozen or more people packed into an area smaller than a modern studio apartment. There were no bedrooms, no walls between where you slept and where your parents slept, where your children slept, where the elders coughed through a cold winter night. Everyone breathed the same air, heard the same sounds, felt the same fire's heat. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner, who spent decades studying the Juhuansi people of the Kalahari, one of the closest living analogs we have to ancestral hunter-gatherer life, documented something striking. Firelight conversations after dark weren't private either. Stories, gossip, complaints, jokes, all shared aloud in front of everyone night after night. Wiesner found that these communal fireside talks functioned as a kind of social glue, reinforcing bonds and resolving tension through openness, not through withdrawal. Here's the plain English version of why this mattered so much. For most of prehistory, survival depended entirely on your group. A lone human, cut off from others, faced predators, starvation, and injury with no backup. Constant closeness wasn't a design flaw. It was the entire survival strategy. But that doesn't mean privacy didn't exist at all. It just looked completely different than it does now. Richard Lee's landmark 1963 study of the Etan Kungsan documented something anthropologists now call social privacy, a kind of psychological distance maintained even in physically crowded spaces. People developed subtle behavioral rules, not staring too long, not commenting on certain topics, giving someone quiet space to grieve, or think even while sitting shoulder to shoulder around the same fire. Privacy wasn't a locked door. It was a shared understanding of what not to look at, what not to ask about, what to let pass in silence. Now, picture reconstructing a single evening from roughly 40,000 years ago. The group returns from foraging as the light fades. A fire is built at the mouth of a shelter. Food is shared out, portion by portion, because withholding food from anyone in the group could fracture the trust the entire community depended on. Someone tells a story about the hunt, exaggerating the danger just enough to earn a laugh. A child falls asleep against an adult's side, and no one moves them to another room because there is no other room. If a couple wanted a private moment, they might walk a short distance from the fire, out of earshot but still visible, still within the boundary of the group's protection. Complete disappearance from the group, even briefly, could raise alarm rather than respect. Here's the twist that reframes everything you think you know about solitude. You might assume ancient humans longed for more privacy, the way modern people sometimes crave a quiet room after a long day. But researchers studying contemporary hunter-gatherer societies, including work referenced by anthropologist James Sussman in his studies of the Juhuansi, suggest something closer to the opposite. Isolation was often treated with suspicion. A person who withdrew from the group for too long was admired for their independence. They were watched, sometimes worried about, occasionally confronted, because pulling away from the group could be an early sign of illness, conflict, or even a threat to communal harmony. Compare that to your own life. You can spend an entire evening without speaking a single word to another human being. Curtains drawn, phone silenced, and no one will think twice. That degree of chosen isolation would have been almost unthinkable to your ancestors, and in some ways, biologically unfamiliar to a body and brain shaped by constant social contact. Modern privacy, the kind we now treat as a basic right, is a remarkably recent invention. Historians tracing the rise of private bedrooms point to changes as late as the last few centuries, tied to the growth of individual wealth, private property, and the modern nuclear family living apart from the wider tribe. Before that, walls that separated people from each other were, more often than not, a luxury only the wealthy could afford. So the quiet you crave at the end of a long day, the locked door, the noise-canceling headphones, the silence of scrolling alone, these are not ancient human defaults. They are modern privileges, built on a level of physical safety and material comfort your ancestors rarely had the luxury to imagine. That doesn't mean solitude is unhealthy now. Circumstances have changed, and so have the pressures on your nervous system. But it is worth noticing what your body still quietly remembers. The comfort of a group nearby, the instinct to check where everyone else in the room is standing, the strange loneliness that can creep in even in a private space if that space stays empty for too long. You have never truly been alone, not because you lacked the freedom to be, but because for almost the entirety of human history, being alone was the one thing your ancestors could never safely afford.